Fair enough. Chris Rock is enforcing a hard no cell phones policy at an upcoming show. The band calls for cell phones to be left at home or in cars, but if you need to bring it in, they have a device called Yonder on hand for you. Effectively, it's a pouch that will lock itself by the time you get to your seat and can only be opened at an unlocking station outside the show. If you're caught with a phone, it'll be an immediate ejection.
How is it?
That's so next gen.
This is so far in the entire time that I've been working at the job that I have and doing this show, this is the only time that we've ever had an overlap in stories, because I was like, oh shit, I wrote about this for my job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not horribly gaming related, but from a cell phone perspective, I thought it was really cool.
Well,
like
and
comedians
actually,
too.
I was the one who found this article, and I kind of struggled at first because of the fact that it's not strictly gaming related.
Yeah.
But I know that obviously, Nate, you've spoke on not just the topic of cell phones, but this idea of comedians and having their work being put out there and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was honestly extremely interested to get your take on this.
No, I think that this is really good, because cell phones have been a problem for comedians for a long time. Anytime you go see a comedian, I mean, at least in the times that I've been seeing comedians in recent memories, they always complain about the cell phone, because as one of the things that is really important about the way that a comedian hones their craft and the way that they end up becoming good is through failure. We talk a lot about failing and using that as a way to build on yourself over and over again. And comedy is this sort of really intense process of doing that again and 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 again.
So you just do it once?
No.
Oh.
Because what it takes is a process of, well, this part of the joke was funny, this part of the thought was funny, why was that funny, and then dialing it in and doing it again to get more laughs. And the only way that you know what gets laughs versus what doesn't is if you go out there and you actually do it. You can make a room full of your friends chuckle all you want, but until you get into a room full of strangers and they're suddenly staring back at you and they're going, "Make me laugh, funny man with the microphone," you don't know what that kind of expectation and pressure is like.
Well,
and so it is this. There's this very frustrating thing that cell phones have brought into every comedy club in America, and that is the ability for your failures to just be
Go public.
Well, to be transient, right? Like if you're a comedian, a lot of times, you would go out there and have the worst set and be like, well, at least I never get to see these guys ever again. Or at least I get to, go to the next city and try something else out.
Start over, clean slate.
Exactly. But when you have cell phones and when you have recording devices like you do, and the ability to transmit that stuff as easily now as ever, it becomes a whole lot more difficult to find what's funny and for comedians to really at the core be able to do their job. What I find really interesting, though, with Chris Rock's decision is, I mean, here's a major comedian, like here's one of the biggest comedians, and the thing is everyone from like Rory Scovel to Jerry Seinfeld has talked about the problem of cell phones and comedy. And here's Chris Rock, one of the biggest comedians going around in our time, and he's ostensibly going out there and performing shopped material. Like, this is stuff that he's taken the time in smaller clubs to already hone and craft, and it's like DVD ready material. So I think it's good. I think it's good that something like this would get a push from Chris. I think all of that is to the benefit of comedy in general. But I would like to see this happen on a much more smaller scale level and happen at like the comedy club level. That's what I would like to see. Until that starts happening, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that the problem will actually meaningfully get addressed.
Right, because I mean, obviously, I kind of knew the angle that you were going to take on that. But with Chris Rock, like, okay, fine, you give a bad set, but you know what? You're still Chris Rock. Like, is anything like that really gonna, affect your career.
I mean, they said the same thing about Kramer. Kramer was on Seinfeld. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, what could Kramer ever do? Like, he was a major network TV star until he decided to point out a table full of black people and say a whole bunch of really racist shit to them. Somebody had a video camera. His career disappeared after that.
I actually never knew that he tried doing stand-up.
Didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's why you haven't seen him since.
Look at the Michael Richards meltdown. It is ugly.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Ugly. And this is and that's
Kramer.
like that's one of the things that incident is one that I always point to where people go, well, you know, like you start hearing people say, well, you know, comedy needs limits and look at what it did to Michael Richards and you know, you got to be careful of the words that you use. And the thing about Michael Richards is similar to the way do we have that esports guy on that his meltdown? Do we have that on the news today?
I think we do.
Deller?
Is that later?
Actually, it's not, but I'll bring
it's
it
not.
up.
Okay, but no. The reason I was asking, I'll bring it up now.
Oh, okay.
So there's an esports athlete named Deller, and he was competitive in
Toronto esports for Overwatch.
Overwatch. That's what it was. And he had this moment this past week
26 seconds.
where he was getting pissed off at a diva in a match.
No, a widow matcher.
Oh, Widowmaker, yeah. And it thought that this player was cheating. And where did that come from?
What did I say?
Widowmaker? Matcher. That's what it was, yeah. And so he got really frustrated and started screaming like a whole line of racial slurs.
26 seconds of them.
Into the voice chat,
Yeah.
not realizing that he was also streaming to Twitch at the same time.
How do you not realize you're streaming?
I don't know, but
Well, is it possible someone else was streaming and it was picking up his voice? Or was
Oh, no.
No.
He was live on stream.
He was streaming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
People were watching. His followers were watching him.
right. So, you know, you have people that that'll look at that and will look at Michael Richards and say, well, you know, this is why you can't say certain things on stage, or why, you know, certain jokes are are not allowed. And neither of those, what you need to understand is that neither of those incidents were jokes. Neither neither Deller in this moment of weakness where he thought that someone was hacking and he was super frustrated, right? Like, he wasn't telling a joke. Mm-hmm. Michael Richards, similarly frustrated on stage, and even though you have the context of the stage and this is a stand-up act, very, very clear to tell on its face that wasn't a joke either. That was
from his heart of hearts.
That was from his, he meant that. Like, that was some ugly shit that rose up and came out, right? And I think that having the ability to know the difference between a situation like a Michael Richards and a situation like a Daniel Tosh is really, really important and kind of key to really kind of getting down on the fundamentals of what comedy is and the way that comedians have to think about comedy in order to put food on their table.
Well, and it's one of those things where context is always key in a comedian set, and when it's just a 30-second YouTube clip, the context is usually lost.
Right.
I actually like what Dave Chappelle had to say about Michael Richards. Have you ever heard his take on that?
I probably have, but go ahead and refresh everyone.
Yeah, he's talking about the whole thing that went down with Michael Richards, and he's like, as a comedian, I had a really hard time listening to that for two different reasons, because I've been where Michael was. I've been there. I've been on stage with someone heckling me over and over again, driving me nuts. And so part of me, as a black man, I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, Michael Richards. How can you say some shit like that? That's fucked up.
Yeah.
But then part of me as a comedian is like, damn, Kramer's having a rough set.
Yeah. I do remember. Now I do remember that
my
joke.
God. I love that bit.
And that's true. I mean, it's true. And I mean, like, for as obvious as it was that was some genuine bullshit that was coming out of Michael Richards' heart, like, there is also that part where you're just like, damn, dude, he's a rough set. He's dying.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think that's really the difference, is that Should comedians be allowed to go up and say whatever they want? They should have the freedom to feel like they can say whatever they want.
Well,
but I think that we as audiences need to be smart enough and discerning enough to be able to tell the difference between jokes and the difference between someone who's letting something
A real moment of darkness.
Exactly.
Also, isn't
yeah.
it part of your job as a comedian to make sure that what you're saying is coming across as a joke and not like you're sitting here
No,
really slamming?
absolutely not. No, that's but I mean,
Doesn't it make you a good comedian when people can tell you're joking?
No, that means that you are a practiced comedian that has done it in front of enough audiences to know the difference. That you have taken that joke and you've worked it to a point where now everyone thinks it's funny. That joke, most jokes that comedians tell on stage that you see for a DVD, they didn't start out that way. They started out where maybe a quarter of that joke was hitting, but the punchline wasn't. Or you know what I mean? Like
They started out doing it on open mic night at their local bar.
exactly, and that's how a good comedian becomes a good comedian. No one starts off as a good natural comedian. No one, except apparently Jerry Seinfeld. Like Jerry Seinfeld, was.
Oh my God,
He's not even there yet.
He was apparently, according to him, he was apparently amazing on his first night up, and he never had a bad set. But if you hear other comedians talk about the craft of comedy, it is a repeated. It's repeated failure over and over and over again until you have marginal success, and then you take those successes and you keep moving them forward.
Oh, like Robbie's sex life.
Joke's on you. Ain't got a sex life.
Multiple failures. We're getting towards the success part.
Haven't had any failures either.
Can't have a failure if you never even tried.